Look at the money in your wallet, or the numbers flickering quietly on your phone in your bank account. Now, ask yourself, what is this money really? Is it wealth? Is it value? Or is it something far stranger? What if the dollars, euros, or yen you earn every day aren't actual money, but obligations? Not metaphorical debt, not something abstract, real measurable debt owed by someone to someone. It may sound unbelievable at first, almost conspiratorial. Yet the truth is this: the money that shapes your life, the currency that seems so solid, is not wealth at all. It is a promise, a system of promises, and each promise creates debt. Tonight, we dive into the hidden architecture of modern money. By the end, you'll see that almost everything you believe about money is, in fact, incomplete. Before we dig deeper, let's pause for a moment. If you're here to understand the systems quietly shaping your world, if you want insight into money, power, and the invisible forces guiding global finance, then this channel, Econorium, is built for you. No gimmicks, no overhyped claims, just careful exploration of history, economics, and the truths most people never see. Hit subscribe and join us so you never miss an insight into the hidden mechanics of money. All right, let's begin. For centuries, money was simple and tangible. Gold, silver, copper coins you could touch, weigh, and store in your hand. If you held a gold coin, its value was undeniable. It wasn't owed by anyone, it simply was. Empires rose on this principle. Trade thrived because trust was embedded in the object itself. A coin was a promise, but it was a promise you could verify. But as human societies grew, this system faced a profound problem: scarcity. Empires wanted more money than could be mined. Wars demanded funding. Roads and navies cost vast sums. Gold alone couldn't satisfy the ambitions of the world. Governments faced a choice: limit their ambitions or reinvent the very idea of money. They chose reinvention. Early banks began as storage vaults. People deposited gold for safekeeping. Banks issued paper receipts in return. One receipt for one pile of gold. Honest, straightforward, verifiable. But banks noticed something important. Most depositors never came back to withdraw their gold. And slowly, a realization emerged. If not everyone redeems their deposits at the same time, it is possible to issue more receipts than gold actually exists. At first, this was carefully managed. Efficiency, not deceit. Over time, banks began lending these receipts. For each coin in the vault, multiple claims circulated. Money had ceased being a thing you held. It became a claim, a promise that someone somewhere would honor it. This shift, subtle, invisible, revolutionary, is where modern money begins. Fast forward to today. The principle is the same, just larger and invisible. When you take a loan, the bank doesn't hand you existing money. It creates new money. Electronically, instantly, a number appears in your account. A debt is registered in your name. The money is real, spendable, accepted. But it exists only because someone agreed to owe it back with interest. This is the paradox most people never grasp. The interest you owe does not exist yet. It must be created from future borrowing. Debt cannot shrink without destroying money itself. If everyone tried to pay off their debts at the same time, money would vanish. The economy would collapse. Debt is not incidental. It is the foundation of money. Money cannot exist without debt. Governments, of course, operate on the same principle, but on a monumental scale. When a nation spends more than it collects in taxes, it issues bonds. A bond is simply a promise. Lend us money today, and we'll pay it back later, with interest. Banks buy these bonds. Pension funds buy them. Insurance companies, hedge funds, even central banks buy them. Sometimes, the government borrows from itself. It may sound strange, and it is, but this circular borrowing is what keeps modern economies functioning. When central banks purchase government bonds, they create new money, not with physical printing presses, but with digital entries. The liability exists on one balance sheet, and the asset on another. The money supply expands. Nothing disappears, it simply circulates. The system is inherently unstable if debt doesn't grow. Interest accumulates continuously. Money must expand to satisfy debt obligations. If borrowing stops, defaults cascade, businesses fail, banks collapse, governments falter. Inflation, often painted as a villain, is actually a silent lifeline. By eroding the value of money gradually, inflation makes debt manageable. Those first in line to access new money benefit. Those last in line, often workers, retirees, and savers, feel the impact later. Debt does not simply distribute money, it distributes power. We've seen how debt creates money. But who really benefits from this invisible machinery? It isn't just governments, and it isn't just banks. The true power lies in the institutions few ever notice: central banks, hedge funds, pension funds, and sovereign wealth funds. These are the quiet arbiters of credit. Their decisions ripple through every economy on Earth, silently shaping your world. When the Federal Reserve or the European Central Bank decides to buy or sell government bonds, it does more than adjust interest rates. It decides who can borrow cheaply, who must pay a premium, and sometimes who may collapse under obligations they can't meet. In essence, the system of debt is also a system of control. Debt is not confined within borders. The United States owes trillions domestically. Japan, China, and European nations hold a significant portion of that debt. But here's the nuance: most people miss the United States. Japan and Europe are all debtors and creditors simultaneously. Japan lends to the United States through treasuries. The United States lends to developing nations through the IMF. Europe lends through the World Bank. Developing nations, in turn, invest in Western bonds and park reserves abroad. It's a planetary game of borrowed promises. Every promise is secured by another promise, and the chain stretches across continents, currencies, and centuries. If one part of this system falters, say, a default in Argentina, a political collapse in Sri Lanka, or a financial crisis in Greece, the consequences are felt worldwide. Debt is global. Debt is interdependent. Debt is power. Central banks sit at the apex of this network. They don't make laws. They don't campaign. But their influence surpasses governments. When the Federal Reserve buys government bonds, it creates new money. When it raises interest rates, debt becomes more expensive. When it lowers rates, borrowing accelerates. These decisions dictate currency values, mortgage rates, pension fund returns, and even your paycheck's purchasing power. Central banks are the ultimate regulators of confidence, and confidence is everything. Without it, the whole system collapses. Debt doesn't affect everyone equally. Interest payments, profits, and power flow disproportionately upward. Workers, retirees, and small savers often bear the cost. Meanwhile, investors, large funds, and the financial elite accumulate wealth. This is not accidental. It is a structural feature of modern finance. By controlling access to money and credit, those at the top remain at the top. Those at the bottom often struggle under the weight of obligations created by the very system meant to stabilize economies. Debt is not just a financial tool. It is a mechanism of inequality. Every financial crisis strips away the illusion. In 2008, trillions of dollars were created overnight to rescue failing banks. Why? Not to help ordinary citizens, not to repay debts, but to preserve the system itself. Debt was too large, too interdependent, to fail. In Greece, austerity measures revealed the unseen power of creditors. International banks, the IMF, and rating agencies dictated policy, wages, and pensions. In Argentina, defaults turned debt into a national curse. In Sri Lanka, running out of foreign reserves triggered fuel shortages and political upheaval. Suddenly, the invisible actors, hedge funds, rating agencies, central banks, became visible, the puppet masters of money. Yet, despite crises and defaults, the system continues. Debt is rolled forward. Old obligations are replaced by new ones. The principal may never be repaid. Interest, however, continues to flow. This is why government debt never disappears. Why Japan's debt exceeds 250% of GDP yet yields remain near zero. Why its treasuries are considered the safest asset in the world. The system depends on belief, on trust, on the confidence that debt will be repaid, or at least that defaults will be contained. Without that belief, the entire machine grinds to a halt. Debt isn't abstract. Every mortgage, student loan, and pension plan connects you to this global web. Every tax you pay, every dollar in your retirement account, every bond your country issues ties you into this network of obligations. The creditor and the debtor often exist in the same person. And yet, most people never see the invisible hands guiding these flows. The choices of central banks, investment funds, and international institutions shape your life without your awareness. This is the hidden architecture of the global economy. Debt sustains the modern world. It allows governments to fund programs, societies to grow, and economies to operate. Yet it is fragile. Confidence is a single thread. A single loss of faith can cascade through currencies, markets, and nations. The system is designed to circulate, never fully repay. It's a machine that thrives on promises, on trust, on the willingness of societies to believe that tomorrow's debts will be honored. Money is debt. Debt is power. Power is invisible. So what does this mean for you, for me, for the world? Money is not wealth, it is permission. Permission to spend, to borrow, to invest, to postpone the reckoning of reality. Every coin, every note, every digital balance represents someone else's obligation. The system functions because we trust it, and that trust is the most valuable currency of all. When that trust falters, economies collapse overnight, governments are forced to act, lives are reshaped. The lesson is clear: money is not what it seems. Debt is not a side effect, it is the lifeblood. The world owes itself, and until the belief in these promises breaks, the cycle continues indefinitely.